What is up? Sick man here. Playoff time. We're catching up on all the games, and I'm here. Wildy, first of all, welcome to Playoff Basketball. Welcome to the Playoff Pod.
Thanks
Your
very
first
much.
appearance, first of many, and we've got Saltbury back in the house.
Hang on.
Since we last spoke, the game we watched together was the Suns Lakers. The Suns won game one. We will be speaking about game two a little bit later. The other games were the Utah Jazz v the Grizzlies, where the Grizz upset the Jazz in game one, stealing a game on the road. Great play from Dylan Brooks and Jar. But the game we are going to talk about was the game of the playoffs for me personally, and that was the overachiever New York Knicks, which is House of O3's team, versus the Atlanta Hawks. And this game went down to the wire. Obviously, the Hawks are Wildy's home team, but Bray actually has them in the sixth man selection. Guys, let's just talk about that game because it was incredible. It's everything that I wanted. It epitomized playoff basketball.
Absolutely, man. Madison Square Garden was absolutely packed as well. I think they had 15,000 in there, which is probably the high of their season so far, which is awesome. I think their capacity is 19,000, but so they're really nearly getting there. Back and forth all game. Knicks had a really slow start, but then won the second and third quarter. So it was just neck and neck all game going into the fourth. And you were going to get into it, but we know what happens at the end. Our man, Trae Young, Ice Trae, seals the game.
It's a little bit chilly. The silencer, yes. The Trae Young hitting the game-winning floater with Frank coming on to guard him for one possession and getting completely burnt. That was a really interesting wrinkle to see Tibbs be like, "You're coming in."
Yes, it's not Frank's fault. That's Tibbs. I love Tibbs, but come on, man. You're better than that. You can't bring in the cold man. Like you wouldn't bring off your cold 3-point shooter to shoot the game-winning three. Why are you bringing off a cold defensive specialist? I don't know if I've ever heard that of Frankie Smokes, but there you go. Weird decision.
I mean, it's happened before, but the reason why we don't know much about it is because it's usually a suicide mission.
Yeah, and you can also tell that we're struggling with his surname because I can't pronounce it. Here's an interesting thought, guys. Before the tip, Julius Randle is getting in the zone, and you saw Spike Lee say something to him. Julius Randle didn't have the best of games. Do you think Spike Lee might have put him on?
Oh, like when in the same way when he talked to Reggie burnt him as well. So Spike is just the downfall of the Knicks whenever possible.
I don't know. Someone was off. He had an off game, but I think it was weird going into it. You'd never bet that Julius was the one who had a bad game, but I think he'll bounce back. I think he's fine.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's had the best season so far of his career. We have never expected that much out of him come postseason because he hasn't had a lot of postseason stuff going on, and the regular seasons prior to any postseasons he's had have never been, anything to boast about. So we never had great expectations up until now. But especially against the Hawks, he averaged 37 against us on 58% shooting in the regular season, getting 11 free throws a game. But it just seemed like he got in his own head early. One of his first shots that he hit was, out from the outside with a man in his face. And he just seemed to stop driving after a certain time, which meant he wasn't getting to the line, and his shots weren't falling. We had DeAndre Hunter back. We decided to put him in the starting lineup, which I think, even though he doesn't seem to be completely in stride, his size and athleticism is going to be so important for us if we're going to try and make a run deep into the postseason. So we sort of are going to take his lack of flow with the long-term investment that in the later series he might be at his peak. So the reason I bring that up is because in 2 of the 3 games in the regular season, we didn't have DeAndre Hunter. And the one game we did, he was coming off of an injury, so he wasn't completely there. But if you look at body type and size, he's kind of the perfect person to guard Randle. So that part of it could be what threw him off. But Randall's obviously shown really, really good improvements. So he's probably going to make some adjustments, have a better game in game 2. So we need to be prepared for that.
I want to ask Bray, because this is your team, obviously, the Hawks. You're rooting for them because we're all trying to win the 6th man. That's the main reason we're here. What do you think about the Hawks in this series? Do you think it's going to go the distance? Do you still fancy their chances? Do you think they're still favourites?
Yeah, I fancied them before the series. That's why I picked them. And they've done their job. The first 2 games, you're away. You still won, and then if you get 2, obviously amazing. We'll talk about it a bit later. That's what the Mavs have done. But honestly, this game, there's no pressure to win. They can just go out and ball. Randall's going to come back hard and have a better game. That Alec Burks is probably going to cool off a bit, and that some of those coaching decisions from Tibbs might go a different way. But you can just go out, play, know that you're going back home to Atlanta, at least tied. You have home court advantage. So, all you got to do is win your home games and you'll be fine. Now, obviously, Trae has a flair for the dramatic. So, you could see him go off again. Like, it wouldn't surprise me. But I think they're in a great position now. I do actually think, though, the Knicks will bounce back and win game 2, just because I think Randall, after that, he's gonna come back with force. I think we'll see him shooting a lot of free throws. Obviously, his mid-range, he's been hitting all season long. So I think we'll see him come back and play really well. And on the defensive end, like, the Knicks are a gritty team. Like, it's tough.
Yeah. I think they're gonna put RJ on Trae.
Yeah.
Or try and get him with the length.
Yeah. Waldy, to close it out for me on the Hawks, how are you feeling about your home team? Obviously, you're back in the playoffs. Like you said, game 1, how was it for you? How do you think it's going to pan out the rest of the series?
Yeah, well, Bray alluded to the fact that they're a gritty team. And when you've got 2 teams that are in the playoffs for the first time in a long time, it kind of does come down to the grit and grind, really. They're the best team at defending the 3-point line. We were 12th best in accuracy from shooting from 3, and that really showed in the first 3 quarters. Bogdanovic didn't do very much in the first 3 quarters, but ended up hitting 3 threes off of 2 immaculate passes to the corner where he scored both of them, and then the third one came off of the tip pass and he just drained it anyway, which is madness. And when a game's only decided by 2 points, obviously that makes all the difference. So look, I'm feeling good. One thing I would take away from it is that I felt like rewatching the game today and prep for this. A lot of the things the Knicks were doing, the reason why it was so close is there felt like a lot of miraculous things were going on for them as well with some of the shots that they made down the stretch. So obviously you have to account for Randall having a bounce back game, but I don't feel like the kind of people that stepped up in that first game are going to have similar repeats. So it's going to balance out, and ultimately we have a lot more offensive weapons. That's going to mean we're going to be able to do it. And also, they seem to be really committed to stopping the lob game to Capella. They were literally on the pick and roll. They would just seal him all the way to the block. So Trae was having open layups, and we'll take that all day. I don't care who's on him. He's going to be making those. So yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, you know what happens in the playoffs? Adjustments, and we are going to be seeing a lot of them.
Yeah.